Making the tough decisions. As I've studied great leaders, whether it's business leaders or religious leaders, athletic leaders and so forth, there's one thing that I found, and one characteristic that we don't often talk about. And we talk about their hard work, we talk about how they delegate and so forth, how they lead by example. One of the things that we don't talk about is their ability to make the tough decisions. So that business owner that needs to identify whether to hire or fire an employee or to close down a plant or whatever it may be, that's a tough decision, but it has to be made. Or that ministry leader that has identified ways to take the ministry to a new level, even if that means to break away from the traditions of the old church or their old ways. Tough decision, but it has to be made. Or that sports leader, maybe it's a leader on the court or field that has to take that last shot or throw that pass that may not be as easy to complete. Or the coach has got to make that decision, that right play call at the right time, the right substitution. These are decisions that have to be made. Now let's take it a step further on a personal level. Because there's someone that may be the power of attorney, the POA of their ailing parent, that's faced with the real tough decision of, if mommy or daddy takes a turn for the worse, do we pull the plug and so forth? Very difficult decision that unfortunately has to be made. So as I started talking about or thinking about leadership and that characteristic that we don't often talk about that is very integral to be a successful leadership, I came up with just two things. Two key points that if you want to be that honcho, that go-to person, the person that everybody relies on to make that call, everybody's looking towards. Boss, what are we going to do? Pastor, what are we going to do? Coach, how are we going to make this call? If you want to be that person, then you have to have the ability to make the tough decision based on two things. The first thing, and my first point is simple. You have to look at everything involved with making this decision. As the saying goes, leave no stone unturned. All the particulars. So if you're a business leader and you're trying to decide whether to shut down a plant because it's not bringing in revenue, then you have to realize that by shutting down that plant, there are many people, or maybe even a few people, that'll be forced to look for new careers on unemployment. There'll be lives affected. So when you make these decisions, you got to look at everything involved, all the particulars, all the significant features or significant items that pertain to this decision. And my second point, again, I only have two. So my second point is this. You can't be afraid to fail. Now, we're not talking about any life or death decisions, because obviously failure when someone's life is on the line is not an option. But we're talking about some of those other decisions, some of those business and ministry, athletics, and even class and so forth. Some of those decisions that we have to make, the difficult ones, but you can't be afraid to fail. The reason why people like a Steve Jobs or a Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Peyton Manning, the reason why these people are successful in their lives is because they aren't afraid to fail. And I've talked before about Steve Jobs' failures before the successes that he had at Apple. He wasn't afraid to fail, to keep trying to get that success, to make those tough decisions to win. Michael Jordan. You know, we all recognize Michael Jordan for his game-winning shots and Kobe Bryant for their game-winning shots. But neither one of them has 100% completion or 100% success in those shots. They've missed their share of shots. But the key is that didn't deter them from taking the next one. They weren't afraid to take the next shot, to win the game, to make that tough call, that tough decision. And the same goes for coaches, for Peyton Manning, and so forth. You can't be so afraid of failure that it paralyzes you and gives you the inability to take that next shot, to make that next decision, to make the next call that determines success or failure. Because therein is where the success starts. In that decision making, in the ability to be faced with a tough call, a tough decision, and to make the right call. The great ones face those decisions and are successful. And even when they do fail, they keep going. You know, life presents many opportunities for us to make decisions. Some decisions are going to be easy decisions, sort of the no-brainers, make it and keep rolling. But there will be many decisions that are difficult for us. Personally, to cut ties with someone that may not be good for you, that you may have feelings for, or to walk away from a job to pursue your business interests, to start your business, to fire an employee that's in that 10%, they're not carrying their weight. Tough decisions that we'll face on a daily basis. The people that are successful, first and foremost, they look at everything involved, all the particulars before they make the decision. And lastly, they're not afraid to fail. So I challenge you today. If you want to be that go-to person, you want to be the boss, the head honcho, if you want to be that leader that people rely on, that people call on to make those difficult decisions, you got to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, am I prepared to make the decision based on everything involved? And am I afraid to fail or not afraid to fail?